Good morning to the Easy Equities community. Thanks for joining. Today we are here with Tertius Zitska and Eric van der Merwe from the Foresight team. And Foresight is actually a company I've been personally following now for a few years, and it's incredible to see how the results just keep compounding and how it's great results year after year. Before we get into it, just a few interesting stats for the viewers. On Easy Equities, we've got over 48,500 investors holding Foresight shares on Easy Equities, of which 41% are female, 59% are male. The average investor is 34 years old, and the largest shareholder owns more than 2 million rand worth of Foresight shares, which is quite incredible. Thanks for joining. Let's get into some of the questions that I have to personally understand the business better and the outlook, and we're going to cover quite a few interesting things. So, just first of all, Tertius, for an investor who's never looked at Foresight before, or maybe someone have looked at it before, but they don't really understand what you are doing, what is the simplest explanation of, who pays you, what problem do you solve, and what do you actually deliver? What is the solution that you deliver for the problem?
Yes, thank you, Hugo. I think a short description is probably that we are system integrators and business solution providers. Although a third of our business is also distribution. So the business mainly consists of 4 clusters. There's 3 production, I call it production clusters, and then the distribution side that I will cover now. But the production side is really everything that a business run, from operational technologies, that's all the factories and plants and mines and whatever. That's more the industrial side of information technology. Then there's the IT, that we call IT, information technology systems. That's the back office system of a business, like your accounting system and your payroll, HR, customer relation management systems. And then there's always been this thing of OT and IT, the war between the engineers and the accountants, whose Excel is right. Okay. So we built a bridge between that. 6 years ago, when I became CEO, we restructured the group and we realigned our strategy going forward. And we really lived the conversion of OT and IT. And the bridge name is data. And then the last 2 years, it's artificial intelligence. I always say data is the oil of this new economy, or this revolution, and AI is electricity. Okay, so in South Africa, luckily, electricity is now a good example again. And that's what we focus on, is to really service our customers end to end on all the requirements regarding technology. And then that's the 3 main clusters. And then there's the distribution side, where we distribute, these platforms on behalf of Microsoft, Sage, and a lot of the bigger technology partners in the world into the rest of Africa and, in a region that we call CIMA, Central Europe, Mid East Africa. So it's basically from Poland all the way down to Robben Island, okay? Maybe Antarctica, I don't know, we haven't sold anything there. But so that's our region that we operate, and the distribution doing very well. We're one of Microsoft's biggest partners in Africa for distribution. And we service over 1,100 other partners very well. Because the smaller guys can't buy from the big guys like Microsoft anymore, so they go through us. But we add the value for them, and they can actually leverage on all our staff, the 400 staff, competencies and excellent skills in delivering these solutions to the market. That's in a nutshell.
Yeah, thanks for that. So maybe just before we dive into the numbers and some of the things that you're looking forward to, maybe can you just give us a practical example of one of the solutions that's been live? You mentioned payroll and some of these ideas. Would you mind giving a practical use case?
So I've been saying it the last 2 years. I think it's now 2.5 years since Satya Nadella from Microsoft announced the Copilot in Microsoft. And that was a revolution. I remember that March 2024, when we really had interviews. I think I had 17 interviews with our results. In the last 4 years, it's been double-digit growth in everything, even cash. Everybody talked about AI and this new revolution. I think only one guy asked me about the figures. But I think the big thing for business is, everybody thinks AI. And AI is not to make a video of your Oma getting alive all of a sudden and running a Comrades Marathon, okay, to make that movie. Business AI is totally different, and we define it as for AI, foresight, automated intelligence, okay, not artificial, okay. Artificial is, if I don't make a profit, I can't tell you it was artificial. Um, so we say automated intelligence. That's really to take routine tasks in any business and to automate that, to make people better. If you go to our LinkedIn pages and Facebook and the social media and the web stores, or the PR that we issued the last few years now, months, I developed in December the 7 stages of AI for business, this concept, a little bit Shakespeare. I always say, to AI or not to AI? That's not a question anymore, okay? For business, definitely. And this 7 stages take basically every role in a company from how do you start and where do you end up? That's stage 7. Stage 5 is like semi-automated. So a simple example is an HR recruitment clerk or a manager in an organization. The old days of printing out CVs and put all the nice pictures on the left and all the qualified guys on the right or whatever, that's gone, okay? So you can't be biased like that anymore. So the human must always stay in the loop. That's a very important thing for this automated intelligence movement. But we've got a lot of data, and there's a term called MMM, multimodal models, where we integrate different databases to assist your co-pilot or your automated intelligence agent to do the work for you. And so if guys send out in CVs automatically, we can evaluate it against the job specification in the HR system and then give you your top 10 candidates. And that's where the human is in the loop and still review that. And then we're going even as so far now, we're experimenting now that the agent actually arrange a meeting with this candidate and we do a virtual interview with this guy. And so imagine if you need to see 5 people for a position and it's 5 hours out of your diary and you still need to discuss the CVs with all the other guys that was in the interview. So we're really giving productive time back to people. And it's extremely well received by the market today, So our biggest growth is in data and AI, but automated intelligence. And that's why we were on the world stage end of last year, November, at Microsoft World Conference. The 4 finalists, I mean, the other 3 guys were all companies for 100,000 plus consultants at Stata Consulting and Ernst & Young. And here comes this African company with 500 people, and we're on that world stage as well. With a very good case, where we really give efficiency back to the business. And it's not to kill the jobs. It's to make people more cost effective and more use their skills more for what they should do, not Excel reconciliations anymore, and deploy them into the business where they can actually make money for you because they've got the skills and the knowledge of your business to actually take that knowledge to generate more revenue for you.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Thanks. So yeah, speaking about efficiency and growth, I want to touch on 2 points with one question. So your revenue for the full year grew 16.3%, and your earnings, your headline earnings grew by 46.1%. So I want to touch on, so obviously there's efficiency because your profits are growing faster than your revenue. But also just, so if you can touch on that point and also just on the revenue, what are the key drivers? Is it you landing new clients? Is it existing clients spending more with you or through you? If you could just speak on what's driving growth and what's driving the efficiency.
Okay, Eric can talk about the numbers now on that. But in short, that acquisition paid out very well for us. We did last year, 1st of March. They actually earned super bonuses on that because they exceeded their target 60%. So it was very well. And when we do acquisitions now and we're on the acquisition roadshow now, the first thing I'm looking for is talent, okay? Young talent that can understand this new economy revolution where we're heading towards. And then IP, if there's IP in the company, and then if it's a fit, cultural fit as well as profits and in line with what we do. We've got 14 divisions. So to enhance them, that's our big drive now. So that was one of our growth areas, was definitely that. And then the other factor is that we are moving up in the food chain now. Okay, so instead of just small business and corporates, we're dealing more and more with the corporate side of the business now and enterprise side of companies. So we can charge more. Okay, so we are not shy for that. And then the new model of billing. One thing that's going to disappear soon is this licenses that you pay, license fee for software. It's going to be replaced by tokens. So the more you use, the more you pay. And depending on what you do in that environment as well. So it's still a big direction shift for the whole market, but it's definitely coming. I mean, 5-6 years ago, we sold huge deals with capital, first millions for the software. And now it's all, pay per user per month, and that's going to change. And then our model of going services, the old days of, it says now in Afrikaans, factuurtjie vir 'n uurtjie, 1 hour, one invoice, that's gone. So we move to this AI as a service. That's the model for the future. We are actually, charge you an amount for the solution that we deliver, and that's what you pay for. So Eric can maybe delve into the numbers now on specifically what clusters outperformed, and where the growth was.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, to answer your question, so part of that growth within the revenue, it comes from the acquisition of X4. There's definitely also it's contributing, but I mean, that's less than 5% of the total, it's the revenue of the group. But I mean, the contribution, to the bottom line was just more than, 15% of that 70 million. That's a good, contribution, to our numbers. But then ultimately, like I said, I mean, the operating profit increasing by plus, 40%. That's, if we go down into the details of the numbers, when it comes to consulting, your direct salaries and your indirect, with the back office guys. I mean, so definitely with savings with overheads, on head office, staff. And yeah, like it's also said, we need to now also going forward, work smart to see if we can keep on generating that leverage between revenue and operating profit. Because at some point, let's say you're going to be 100% cost effective, but I mean, we're pushing to get rid of all inefficiencies, but I mean, to make the engine as efficient as possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe just touching on revenue, what portion of the revenue is actually recurring? So you've got these various clusters, of which consulting is one of those. So yeah, what portion of your revenue is recurring with an annuity versus once-off projects?
I mean, a big portion when it comes to, let's say on the CP cluster side, does the reseller or the channel partner, it's close to 40% of the group's, total, revenue number. And I mean, the big split comes in between consulting and that software as a service. That's almost, 90% of the total group's, revenue, of which just over 30% is, consulting. I mean, I don't want to quote and say it's 60% is annuity, but I mean, that's the revenue that gets generated through the software, sales. And now it's adding our consulting services on top, with providing the solutions, for customers.
Thanks for that. Tertius, you mentioned that you're going on an acquisition roadshow, and you've obviously had this 4x successful acquisition. Just where are your minds and strategy at with looking at investing the cash that you have versus investing in organic growth, acquisitions, stock buybacks, and dividends? Because you've obviously also declared a dividend, so there's also that. But yeah, where's your thinking and priorities with regards to redeploying cash?
So we need to look at our market. I mean, we are in Africa, okay? That's a fact. We can't move anywhere else, and that's where our revenue is coming from. And if you look at the market now, I've been at the Business Week conference 3-4 weeks ago in Cape Town, and the amount of small information technology companies that was there, it's like 20-30 staff, and they all do 20-30-40 million rand turnover. And it's amazing to see the number, the quantity of companies that's in fintech, retail CRM systems and health. I was actually quite shocked by fintech and health. So there's really the skills and excellence in our environment in South Africa is really leading the way. I remember years ago when we joined the Microsoft party or whatever we call it, a community. That was in 2007, you know. In those days, you know, I was actually, you know, in those days, about 5 to 10% of the annual yearly winners of innovation in Microsoft worldwide was from South Africa. So it came down again. But then if you see all the South Africans that's overseas in leadership positions in the tech companies, it's amazing as well. So it's really, that's where the big growth is going to be. So we're looking at quite a few of those guys. You know, but they need to fit as well. You know, we've got a very unique culture. It's fun in Foresight. You know, we have a big drive with the World Soccer now. The office has got all the flags on already, and we braai. You know, we use the word for a lot. So you can see here, I'm drinking it for coffee, and we do for braai, and we do now for soccer. Yeah, so it's for Africa as well. You know, doing extremely well in that, and we need to balance that out going forward, you know, and I'm very much involved with the people as well. I'm not a CEO with a closed door, you know. I'm always open, and I'm in the tech talks as well. I call myself a digitally transformed technologist accountant in the cloud.
That's great. So yeah, that's on the acquisitions part. Then just on dividends and stock buybacks, is that something you're looking at to expand over the next few years?
Yeah, I think that's a good recipe. Somebody else called us the other day the small cap that acts like a large cap. But that's the solid things that we do. You know, I live King 5. You know, we simply don't do anything that's not right. You know, we like a SENS, for instance, SENS issued on the JSE, all the board members must sign it off. You know, it's not a simple thing, no, but we must issue it because it's law. I say no, everybody is responsible to sign and acknowledge. And if you keep to that basics things, you know, like, I mean, I like rugby, like the Bulls, when they went back to basics Saturday, they won with 1 point. I love it if we win with 1 point.
Yeah, to prove a point.
Yeah, that was a
so dividends definitely always on the map now. So we want to have a proper policy for that. But we also need to invest where we know that we can double up on that investment very quickly for our investors. Yeah.
And is just the last point on stock buybacks, is that something you're also looking at, or are you focusing on the other two?
Yeah, 80% of the stock still held by previous founders of the company and of staff that got share options, you know, when we did the deal in Foresight or Actec Systems that became Foresight Systems then. So that's there. And if there's something coming up at a good price or something, then we do it.
Okay. Now, I just want to touch on the opportunities and risks. So maybe just first touching on the opportunities. You've already highlighted some of these. But where do you see opportunity? Is it with launching new solutions in Africa? Is it expanding outside of Africa? Not touching on the acquisitions, we've already covered that, but just organically, where you're seeing opportunity?
I think the biggest organic growth now is this whole movement of agents. Okay, so I mean, I don't know why our IT oaks, we always invent things that makes our lives different, that we can never go on holiday. But at least we still do for yacht and for hunting as well. So, yeah, so I think the next thing is this whole drive of agents. And as you see, last week, Microsoft released a new thing called Microsoft Scout. Okay, so I immediately translated that into Microsoft Voortrekker. But that's I mean, to keep up with that, and that's the way technology will always grow. But we sit between these. We always refer to these gorillas. That's the big software houses. So we need to balance that act between, here's the gorilla with all this technology, and here's the business owner. So we sit in the middle. So how do we bring these two worlds together? And that's where we find ourselves now. So we are busy now with, we call it for AI for people, for instance, or human capital systems, where we're going to release software, I don't want to say packages or whatever, we say it's agents that can do the work. And you give these agents to your customers that they can use them. In that way, you generate that consulting or software as a service revenue for yourselves. So, especially in information technology, on financials, you know, to do a reconciliation of a creditor's statement, manual on Excel, I mean, it just takes hours and minutes and whatever away from your work. And that's all automated. When your computer now works when you are off, and the next morning you just get the results as you come into work and you make certain decisions. And that's where we start developing this IP. So we've got a lot of IP in the old days, the workflow that we wrote in 1999 with Y2K. I remember we installed ACPAC, Sage ACPAC, it's now called Sage 300 for the Reserve Bank, South African Reserve Bank. And that's where our workflow was born in those days with LF files. It was not web-based or whatever. And that's still with us, So we've got like 30,000 users on that throughout Africa. And to evolve that with an AI engine that actually gives that intelligence to that product now and enhance that. And that's where Eric's saying that, I think it's close to 70% that our revenue is actually recurring, because if you sell those systems, there's automatically this software as a service, services is also available, that's uptaken there as well. So that's our big drive, is the IP that we're creating around this new world for business owners and the users inside a business.
That's very interesting, and that's a note that I took, is the fact that you're not just distributors or a consulting company, actually develop your own IP and own your own IP as well.
Yes.
Touching very shortly on opportunities, do you see any opportunities internationally for expansion, or is it most of the opportunities locally?
Our international expansion is to work very well. We partner very well. So we do a lot of work in the Americas. When they wake up in our afternoon, evenings. So we support other partners there, especially in the Sage environment ecosystem on big projects. And then some in Australasia as well. So we definitely work through that channel partner business into that. And I think that channel partner business, it's been extremely successful, to take, there's a Nigerian partner that we actually want to make a case study of him. This guy started 6 years ago selling, data bundles on a tray in a street in Lagos, Today he's got a building with 400 staff. And it's just a success story, where you help these guys to win deals, assist them, not simply, dumping a software system onto him and he must sell it, but to really leverage on us, to help them in Africa as well. And that's growing extremely well. East Africa, West Africa, that's big areas for us to focus on. But then South Africa is still the main source of all our revenue, yeah.
In talking about risks, what are the current constraints or risks that you see that could potentially slow growth, or things that you're looking at that you are making plans around?
I think number one risk is probably, I always say Africa, the big thing about Africa is we can adopt very quickly to technology because we don't have a lot, okay? So in the days of copper lines and everything, when the whole mobile connectivity came in, we lived through quite a few interesting, the 5 decades, if you remember that. Well, you can't remember the 80s, but I can. Mainframes, if you want to take your work out home, it's a print out, and you get Tipex and post-it notes and highlighters, and then you give the corrections back to data. The 90s was the internet or the connectivity explosion, where the whole world got connected. The 2000 was the internet revolution. The 2010s was the mobile explosion. And then 2020s, everybody said it's automation. And there was a bigger focus on physical, electronic automation, like self-driving cars and all that stuff that's going to come. But then COVID turned the automation in 2020s, where we are right in the middle of the 20s now, into the automation of processes around people. And that's the biggest thing that happened. And that's why the data in the world exploded, because all of a sudden hybrid work, that was the thing because of COVID. And then that was data on site, on C drives that never synced to the central database. And that's why all these data centers started. And then it evolved into the artificial intelligence that we have today. We have all this data and search engines involved, and the consumption and computing power that you need in the cloud to get these answers. And that's the big drive for us for the future, is to automate that and use that data integration. And then the biggest risk around that right now is security. and data sovereignty. So what did the war in the East cause? That the biggest thing that came out of that is data sovereignty, because every country all of a sudden realized, okay, if they cut that cable under the sea permanently, I can't invoice, or I can't do a budget, or my stuff is lying in Google Drive somewhere in Ireland. And that's where a big drive is to that sovereignty now. So hybrid cloud back in, some people say copper is back. It's definitely back. And that's why you get systems now that process on a site a lot of data and systems, like at a mining site in the middle of the DRC, and only connect to the head office on the things that they need to know, like a board pack or a purchase order approval on workflow systems that's going back to the head office in Johannesburg and then back because they exceed a CAPEX or a business rule. And that's the big drive. So that's a risk for us in a way that technology all of a sudden must change direction to be on-prem big time. But then also the hybrid data story, and then data and security, security, cyber security, that's a big thing. There's always guys that wants to break in, and you never catch them. You can see what happened the last few weeks in the world, regarding that. I think there's more digital wars going on than physical wars in the world today.
Mm. Yeah, I guess that's also an opportunity for you operating in the tech space to solve for those security problems. I've got 3 more questions left. So just the next one being, you mentioned mining, and I think it would be interesting to understand, your clients. Which are the 1, 2, or 3 biggest industries that you have most of your clients in?
I think if you look at the group, mining is definitely number 1 with our operational technology. I don't think there's another company in the world that's structured like us with all this. And in mining, we've got operational technology, automation, and then simulation. So automation is where we, in the East Rand, we've got 3 warehouses where we physically construct these IoT networks, getting all the data into a historian, and that's installed on a big mining site or industrial site, connected to all the devices and stuff. And then the optimization guys takes that data and they optimize it with software and do analysis on, maintenance of the plant, to do preventative maintenance and keep the system, the cost running that plant very low. And then simulation, where we actually can simulate anything on an industrial level. Like if you want to put more throughput through a plant, what do you need to do and stuff like that. So that's a big thing for us coming. Definitely mining, it will still grow, and the world is always hungry for all the minerals that you need for the computing power in the world. And then the IT side will just the automation on that is just enormous. Everything can be automated, any routine task. So that there's not a big risk there. I think the risk is probably the way that the future revenue model is going to work from our big vendors. But then we in the power, I think at all our vendors, we are like master or gold or whatever, platinum partners. So we're very safe there. Another risk is probably people, knowledge. Everybody talks about all these new things, but to find people, and I think, in South Africa, I looked at charts this weekend on the population growth in the world by 2040. The only continent that will grow is Africa. And it's like 2 billion more people in Africa alone. So if you see that as a threat, probably I don't. I see it as opportunity. They all need to eat and buy and bank and get data, okay? So and compute. So and we will be the powerhouse of people for the rest of the world. All the other continents are flat. Even China as well. And that's risk. I don't see it as a risk. So I see the glass as half full. Yeah.
No. I saw that there's been quite a few insider buys from directors buying shares at Foresight, which is always a positive sign, showing skin in the game. And one thing I want to touch on is, so, in your industry, you are on a PE ratio of around 7 or 8, which is considered generally very cheap. If you look at the rate of earnings growth, you're paying a dividend, balance sheet is healthy, all of that. Now, a struggle that most small caps have in South Africa is the fact that there's liquidity constraints with volumes. So institutional buyers don't really look at it because it's just too small for them. Have you been having any conversations, or do you have any plans with, speaking to institutions to see how I can unlock some of that value?
I think that the next 3 years, I turned 65. The board appointed me again, for 3 years. So luckily, so my big task is that. That's why we're on this show as well. But that's a big drive for us. It's funny that the institutional guys, they are our customers. So we must actually say, don't just buy consulting or as a service, do some other investments as well. But so I think that's definitely on our plan, But then, I think the Y2K.bomb thing in South Africa is still remembered very well in 1999, 2000, worldwide. But we survive. And there are only a handful of tech companies on the JSE for some reason. And we decided to stay in there and drive that with acquisitional growth. And then I think our own, IP growth this coming year and next year will be, to quote somebody that used the word tremendous a lot, it will be tremendous.
Oh, that's great news. And my last question, and then we'll wrap it up, is just on you don't really provide formal guidance, and that's not such a big thing in South Africa as compared to the US. But just from what you've seen so far, speaking to clients or potential new clients, what are you expecting for the year? Is there any guidance you can give, or things you are most excited for this year?
I think that a year and a half ago, we decided to give all our staff access to LinkedIn training, and we worked out a curriculum for every single staff member, what he must train and skill himself up in. And that is now paying out to us, So everybody in Foresight, first of all, we gave them the free versions of AI and co-pilots to play with. But most of our staff now has got the full version. And you can see the difference that's making for us already. So my task now is to take that and to commoditize that and show, like our chief legal officer did a demo to a big group's whole legal department two weeks ago. And I remember he came back to me, he said to me, the lady that sat next to him was an advocate, and she said to him, "You are from the devil." And she was the first one to sign an order to get a full co-pilot, because she gave me an example, do this transaction for me, and he gave a perfect report back and actually showed errors in their report. And that's what you need to get to people, is to get them, to make them believers, that this is not replacing your job, but it's making you more efficiency. So skills with people, that's the biggest thing that we can invest in right now, for the future.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tertius. Thank you so much, Eric, for joining us. To everyone out there, thanks for joining as well. And follow Foresight, go through their financial results. There's some really exciting numbers and interesting things to look at. And
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.